Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio. And now, here's our host, Dr. Vanessa Anceloni.
Welcome, dear listener, to Kardec Radio. We are here live from the Chantilly, Virginia studios at Kardec Radio. What a joy. It is a joy because we are talking about the foundation of life. And when I say foundation, I say about the beginning of everything, the sustenance of everything, the source of everything. We're going to talk about God, but we're going to feature here a documentary that was released back on November 2014. The documentary iGod. Yes, you know, we have iPhone, iPad, and now iGod. Isn't that interesting? Yes. And iGod is an extraordinary documentary that explores the nature of God. It's really fascinating. It's always worthwhile talking about it. And the creators of iGod are Neil Donald Walsh as one of the co-producers, Robert Friedman and Rashmi Kilani, and they put together with Jonathan Friedman, Matthew Friedman, as well as the directors. So a beautiful team, and they've interviewed very renowned people in the diversity of fields of several religious, spiritual pathways, including Deepak Chopra and many others. And here we have with us Kitabu, the Zen master, Vernon Kitabu. He is the author of books, and a book that he became renowned, the master, the Book of Kitabu, Kung Fu, the Master, the Book of Kitabu. And he's going to talk about his latest release as well. He's going to talk about his own journey and the very topic, God. Without God, who are we? We are sincerely nothing because we're sustained by God. So we'd like to meditate before we begin as an introduction for the program on the fact that we are created by God. We're not going to discuss this, whether we were created this or that way, because in spirit, as we know, God created us simple, ignorant, but not as humans, because simple and ignorant does not have anything to do with being human. It's very complex to being human. We were created way, way, way beyond, like before becoming human beings. But that's another story for another day, when we will talk about the evolution in two worlds. Evolution and God can go hand in hand. That's the Kardec's take on it. That's our take on it. But that's another day for another discussion. Today we're going to focus on the very concepts of what is God, not who is God, because God is not a person, and God, the nature, God's attributes, if I may say this way. And we know Allan Kardec in the Spirit's book, first question asked, what is God? And the answer is so all-encompassing. The first cause of all things, the supreme intelligence of the universe. And many people ask me, but Vanessa, intelligence, where is love there? Well, when you're truly intelligent, you're loving. When we're not loving, we're not intelligent. And no wonder we now know about emotional and spiritual intelligence, because being loving is a great part of being intelligent as well. As a neuroscientist myself, I can share with you that the leaders in the field of neuroscience have already proved that in order for us to think clearly and to have our cognition functioning at the highest levels, we need to have a good flow of emotional intelligence. So affection and cognition go hand in hand. We really need to deal with both in a very different way. Older generations, they simply thought we can be rude and very rough regarding our emotional display, but we can still be smart. And the reality of the matter is that it doesn't happen that way. Love and intellectual intelligence depend, they are interdependent. Okay? So we're going to discuss many, many topics that pertain to the nature of God. Questions about the nature of God that have been with humanity since the beginning of times. And many religions, they talk about it, spiritual philosophies, and spiritism as well. And we are delighted that the publishers, Scarlet, Scarlet Publicity, offered us to talk to Zen Master Vernon Kirabu, who is here with us. He's going to talk about this and much, much more. What a delight. Before we open the line to talk to him, we need to mention to you that this coming April the 23rd, the United States Spiritist Council is organizing its 10th U.S. Spiritist Symposium. Go to the website, please, spiritistsymposium.org. It's going to happen at the Convention Center in San Diego, California. It's a whole-day event where speakers from all over the United States are going to gather together to talk about the transformational power of love. We'll be there as well. I'll be there giving a talk about the love in the brain, and many other speakers will be there as well talking about the different components of love. It's not only about talk, it's about feelings, experiences, and being amongst friends. And if you have a child, 6 years old and older, there will be parallel activities for them as well. The registration is so symbolic. It's only $20 for adults and $10 for children. Many people ask, this is so unique because in the United States these events are so expensive. How come you guys in Spiritism do free events and events that are, easily accessible to people? Because we have a different philosophy. We don't make money out of it. We practice our spirituality based on, what we are given by the Spirit. So we cannot charge for anything. We have our own professional lives, and if anything is charged, just to help defray the costs. But usually the sponsoring organizations are the ones taking care of everything. It's actually a charitable way of reaching out to the larger public. Hundreds of people usually come to these events. We are on its 10th edition, and you're welcome to join us. Remember, Cardiac Radio this month is expanding to 7 programs a week. Can you believe it? Yes, we started in 2011 on July 4th. It's our anniversary every year. And this April, we are preparing the launching of 2 more programs. And one of them is going to be another live program as well, and Cardiac Radio for Teens. And we are going to announce it very soon at our website, and in 2 weeks, mid-April, we will have Cardiac Radio available to you 7 days a week. Can you believe it? Hosts from all over the world joining forces and sharing with you nourishment for your soul, for your family, for your children, for yourself. And if you miss the live programs, all you do is listen to it on demand at our website, cardiacradio.com. At iTunes, we have a channel there, or you can go to blogtalkradio.com, and there we have our channel, Cardiac Radio, as well. If you're listening to us, and I see many people here connected, you want to ask questions to Kirabu, you feel free to call us, 858-769-4705. It's a toll-free number, or send us a message at Blog Talk Radio chat room. Right now, we're going to stream one short message, Life After Life, in the voice of our dear friend John DeRosa. Soon after, the Zen Master Vernon Kitabu is going to be here with us.
Life After Life by the Spirit Anderson. Not all persons are given the wisdom, but all do have the gift to testify through the love to each other in our daily experiences. In truth, our social condition, color or race, age or nationality do not prevent us from the duty to serve. We are all challenged to do good things at all times. God is love. Nobody is all good and nobody is all bad. Each of us is self-centered on a course of development to reach a higher plane of activities. God has enshrined His divine attributes within us. As one goes higher, evolution is expressed by word, equilibrium, love, and light. Let us be progressive with Jesus. How can we do this? Service first. Spiritual refinement is man's soul experience, life after life, over and over again. Our present awareness extends over an extended period of the past. The area of experience varies from man to man. Each man only exists in the place for which he has fitted himself. Nobody can evade that which is in his own consciousness. Actually, there is no death. As we live in our earthly body, our life continues in the beyond, according to our thought. Therefore, we come back to the physical world through rebirth, to conquer perfection, till we get complete command of our impulses and functions. Marvel not that I said unto thee, Ye must be born again. Jesus, John chapter 3, verse 7. This message is from the book Among Brothers of Other Lands. It was received by the medium Valdo Vieira while traveling in New York City with the medium Chico Javier on July 7, 1965.
Yes, dear listener, here we are talking about iGod. iGodthefilm.com is the website for your reference, iGodthefilm.com, and it's a documentary that talks about God, its nature, and lots of implications from it. And to talk about this and much more, we have here the Zen Master Vernon Kitabu, and you can go to his website to know more about him and his work, www.soulsword.com, and get to know more about his previous book and the most recent one he's going to talk about today. Thank you so much, Kitabu, for being here with us this morning at Cardiac Radio.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. You know, Kitabu, people have different ways of walking their own journey in spirituality. How was yours? If you can summarize to us, please, how was your discovery of your pathway in your own spirituality?
It was very personal because I was always a contemplative child, and I questioned how it is that I existed to begin with. So my quest was a very personal one, and I had experiences at an early age. I grew up in a Christian family, so I was always in a church. But it was not the broader experience that happened to me, but the personal connection. For example, when I heard the minister talking about Christ, I had an experience of Christ himself face to face. When I was sitting in the building, everything disappeared but the building. The building disappeared, I disappeared, everything disappeared. But that experience in which I was feeling connected and pain and suffering of the human existence and until I was transported back to that present moment. And at that, I realized that without spiritual connection, we were gross beings, or what people would call already dead.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then, once so did that make you feel like your connection with Jesus and God were deeper than what was being offered to you through the Christian church?
Well, like I said, for me, it always remained something going on inside of my spirit.
Mm-hmm.
I was never a dogmatic person.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that as being a separation there. There was the outer form that was embraced by the group,
Mm-hmm.
and there was the inner essence that was particularly different.
Mm-hmm.
And I always followed that inner path. And as a result of that, I was being led down a different road. As you will discover later on, it led me down ways that was not approved by my family,
Mm-hmm.
not approved by the church,
Mm-hmm.
because it didn't fit in with the dogmatic path that was being presented.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't understand what was moving me.
Mm-hmm. So how you were young, and how did you deal with this non-acceptance? How did you manage it?
I became increasingly quiet and solitary being. I kept my feelings to myself, except expressing it in poetry. That's how I began to write. I would express the feelings that I had in my poetry and keep it to myself otherwise. But there was no one to talk to in those early years.
Mm. But Kitabu, nowadays there is a reason. As you're saying, just came to my mind something that we're trying to address here at Kardec Radio by creating a one space for youth. But statistics tell, the latest research says that this current generation is so distanced themselves from God. So based on your own experience, how do you see we could potentially bridge this gap up for our youth? How can we do this?
First of all, I like to say, in my early experience that I was talking about, I had great experience of love and peace that flooded me on that particular day that I had that connection, and therefore I was transported. That's how it began.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have an experience like this, and you can share that, it's something that inspires other people. But that was not to be the only experience I was to have, because I went through many different, I would say, spiritual adventures that caused my life to be shaped, ups and downs and all that I experienced. But that particular day, and for a while, I was transported into another level of being, so strong that the people around me could feel it. My students, my fellow students in school, felt it, and they wouldn't cuss around me or say anything out of the way, because they felt I was different. And I had trouble being different, because after a while I didn't want to be isolated. I felt like, why is everybody treating me differently than them? And I would say, oh, hey, I'm just like you, which was probably a big mistake because I really wasn't. I wanted to be accepted in the wrong way. and that was not good.
Mm.
I had to learn to accept the role that was given to me, and that took some time. But I think, in answer to your question,
Mm-hmm.
we have to champion the cause of God as a reality, not as something extra or set apart. That when you, in your opening statements, you were saying about life and God being the source of our life and all.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reality to me. There is no God, then there is no us. I don't separate that. We are all a part of that one, and that one is a part of us. So when we speak of that in that way, when we speak of it in our normal conversation, then we help people to incorporate it into their way of thinking, instead of treating it as, did you go to church Sunday, or did you go to temple Sunday, or synagogue, or however people treat it as an external experience, as opposed to an internal expression.
I see. You know, yesterday I was talking to Dr. Stephen Post, who has been working with youth more recently regarding the importance of creating awareness on spiritual freedom and of religious freedom, because he sees it as a matter of life and around the world. The problems we're seeing around the world, like suicide bombers, usually are quite young, and the people who are promoting these dissensions. So more and more we see that the group that is in greater need than any other one, that is really left with no major reference, like the main reference, God, is our youth. So in this documentary, the iGod, as you were invited to, you were one of the interviewed people as somebody who experienced it, who teaches it, who has shared it. So what can you tell us in regard to this God as the foundation of life? Can you share a little bit with us your take on it?
The very breath that I have and that I am, is God. On one end is me, on the other end is God. And that's the truth of all of us. But we might not think of it that way. I think the barrier is the mind. You were talking about the suicide, the bombers, and all of these things. How this happens is that the mind and the spirit are not the same. The mind is like a steering wheel. Which way is it turning? And outside forces can turn that wheel and push you in a different direction and poison the person, or it could heal the person. So we have to work on that mind aspect too. If you turn your mind toward the infinite, then all of a sudden there's an expansion. You're open to new things and new experiences that were not known to you before. It's like just before this call, I was looking outside at the rain, and I was experiencing the presence of God in the rain. It's something as simple as that. And the ground, all of that, and by being there looking at it, all is part of a wondrous experience, something that was exhilarating to me inside of my soul. And it's an ordinary thing. But you cannot separate God from the ordinary thing, because without God, there would be nothing. Without ordinary things, how do we know? So God is a part of every experience, but we don't interpret it that way. So it's our interpretations that we have to work on. Well, actually, I think we spend too much time trying to interpret than we do trying to have the actual experience itself different from interpretation, because that's extra. That's the outside looking at it. If you taste something, you know by doing so whether it is good for you or good to your palate, your taste buds, or not. If it's bitter, you're going to react. If it's sweet, you're going to respond to that. So same is with our experience with God. If we open ourselves to God, then God is going to permeate our being, and we're going to have a greater experience then. That's what we have to do. We have to open that door, and that door is our mind.
Very interesting, because, as you said, it's more about the experience. And you know, Kirabo, that, we're talking about a time on the earth when many people are so busy, caught up with cell phones, which is great. They serve a purpose, like tablets, cell phones, and computers, and people using social media and being connected at 24/7. So where can we possibly find what could you tell to the listener, either adults or teenagers, elderly ones? What can you tell them? How can we, in the current business of life, with all these gadgets and social media opportunities, how can we actually find God? That connection.
Well, actually, I see the gadgets as being part of God too.
That's interesting.
That's a way of our catching up with the truth of things. You speak of the iPhone. That's a very personal instrument. I heard it said that so much of our data is in our phone. No one wants to lose their phone. No one wants to, and they keep it handy. Mm-hmm. And in the same way, with our God, always handy. In fact, in Germany, they refer to their phone as handy. I understand. They call it a handy. Well, that's the way we should connect with God, that he is always more handy than our phones, that all we have to do is reach out. And in reaching out, God is already reaching back, because we are seeking God. But in reality, God is seeking us, a reconnection with us, because we're the ones that have drifted away. So he's always reaching out to us, or I know that you use the term it, which is not locking in the agenda, but God is always reaching out to us, and if we dare to reach forward, he's going to reach in to our being, and we'll be able to connect or reconnect. That's what we have to know. That's where faith comes in. You have to know or believe that God is, and then know that just like your phone works and you don't know how the phone works, you just pick it up and start dialing or speak to Siri, and Siri talks back. That how can a device be more effective than the creator of the universe? So we can speak to the universal Siri and get an answer back too.
That's very, very interesting. It's a different way of feeling things as well. There is a passage I want to mention to you. There is a book that was brought in by a medium named, very renowned in Brazil, but he's now discarnated. Today is his anniversary, Chico Xavier. He psychographed more than 400 plus books. In one of them, he reports there's a spirit author named Brother X. He came to share a dialogue between Nicodemus and Jesus Christ. When Nicodemus approached Jesus, the Master Jesus, and asked, I've been studying the scriptures all along, but I still don't get it, how we're going to achieve this kingdom of God. And Jesus replied, well, Nicodemus, you actually forgot that it's not about knowing, it's about feeling the scriptures. Much of what you're saying today, Kirabo, resonates to that recommendation of Jesus, feeling. More than anything else, about feeling. You talked about your first experience and how this experience, the feelings of it, actually opened a new way of seeing life and yourself. Am I correct? The way
Yes.
you feel it? Mm-hmm.
Well, I keep using the word experience a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's because that is the king, the experience itself. Because knowing, that's what we have in words and logic. We have that. But nothing beats the actual experience. You may not be able to convey it directly to a person, but you can have it for yourself. It's like saying that you want the person to know if the water is cold, give him a glass of it. Let him drink it for himself. You know. But they need to know that you have the water. You know, yes, they'll come if you but you embody what you're. If you embody what you're speaking about, other people will know because they are missing it. You know, and it attracts them. And you were talking about going further into experience.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote a book called Soul Sword, The Way and Mind of a Zen Warrior. Mm-hmm. And what happened was, when I was later on in my life, I moved into the area of Zen practice, which is direct experience. Mm-hmm. And I used to be the target of bullies because of being peculiar, being different. I was always a target. Somebody wanted to beat me up for no reason all the time. And when I was meditating, I had an awakening. And in that awakening, I saw the essential nature of martial arts. Mm. So it seemed real. But to be certain, I went among masters to be tested. And eventually, I was awarded black belts in different disciplines, even though I never even had a white belt in those disciplines, beginner. I went from nothing to expert and master status from that churning over of my mind. And for many years, I demonstrated in different parts of the world, in schools and against people who were masters through rote and all, to show that this spiritual experience was where it all came from. You know, this was the foundation of the highest part. Not to say I was greater than anyone, but to say that the spirit was greater. That was the demonstration, that the spirit could accommodate whatever was coming at me. And that was a way of showing in the physical what was happening in the spiritual realm. Mm. Because people could actually see that happening. And that's what some of the videos you see on YouTube and all would demonstrate that. I did not have formal training. I had spiritual training. And that's what I think became attractive to a number of people. Oh, can I learn this way? I said, well, this is the way we are. This is how we came into being. We just forgot. Mm-hmm. You know. Yes. And so that's exciting to me, that I can learn things directly, and that I'm being taught by the creator of the universe. And that that's the way that we are wanted to be taught, is direct. Not the only way, but that is an expedient way for us to learn. It's to open ourselves to receive.
Mm-hmm. That's very, very interesting, because everything you said really makes us feel more deeply our own foundation. By understanding that we are sustained by God constantly, and God allows us to experience, so we grow and progress. The main question many people ask is like, so where's good and evil in all of it? And in the Spirit's book, we have a section starting, for those who are listening to us, 629 question and answer onwards. It talks about good is everything that is in harmony with God's laws, whereas evil is everything that deviates from it. You have meditated deeply on this question. It's one of the questions that were asked in the very documentary we're talking about today, iGod. Can you elaborate on these issues that are so life-changing and transformative to people, please, Kitabo?
About good and evil?
Yes.
Well, I think that is very simple. If it hurts you, it's likely to hurt someone else. If we can understand how we feel, we're going back to that feeling again. If you are hungry, then you know what that feels like. Do you want that for someone else? If we can realize that we are not separate from the other beings around us, that this skin, and this flesh and bone is not a real separation, because we're spirit. Spirit is, like I said in iGod, we are all fish in the ocean, and the ocean is in the fish, and the fish is in the ocean. We are all in that same ocean together. But because we have a different portion of skin around us, we think we're separate. So that we are going through something, we think only I am going through this. But that's not true. Because if we look at the greater picture, we realize others can feel the same thing we're feeling. How is it you can separate yourself from that you can't have empathy for them? And that's because we don't really understand who we are. We haven't gotten to the depth of our own being. Because if we go deep enough, we're going to come out somewhere else. We're going to come out with someone else other than just ourselves. So I think that loving ourselves is loving humanity as a whole. And that's when we are able to go deeper in our meditation. We're going to touch humanity, the whole being. Just as we say, the Creator is one, so are we. We have different sensitivities, but we're not different beings.
So we are all interdependent.
Yes, we are. But we have this ability to fool ourselves into thinking we're not. And that's why we can have people that could kill someone and divorce themselves from it. That's through their mental state. They have this artificial belief that they are separate and somehow divorced from the retributions and all, which they're not. And they will discover that.
So as we're speaking right now, many people around the world are going through cruel challenges, from wars to starvation to incredible tortures, etc. Lots of loneliness, suicide, homicide, so many things. So one of the questions that they asked in the documentary, and many of the interviewed guests' answer, was about how come a God that is so omnipotent, all-powerful, and loving allows such things to happen. In your own reflections, what is your conclusion in that regard?
Well, I addressed that in one of my statements also. and that is that we are beings that have free will. And if we didn't have free will, we would be an automaton, a robot, and we wouldn't like that. So what happens is we are able to override. God made a desire for us to be loving to each other and to be as one, but we have the ability to go another direction. Just like the fish can go an opposite direction of the flow of the current, we are able to go in other directions too. And therefore, the reconciling with God is coming around to his will by choice. Yeah. We have to choose. And that's why you have so many different religions, people making choices or seeking to find that relationship. And then when you are seeking, you get a sense of what is designed for you by God.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
It's like a child. A child has free will.
More wisdom, Leon Denis. This is video 5. And when you're saying about free will, we agree. In Spiritism, we agree. Without free will, we couldn't actually even understand the things that we're living in. And many people nowadays, they are feeling this disconnect. Many parents we see, they decide to make a family, have children, but they raise their children without any foundation whatsoever in regards to God. We understand in the Spiritist literature that the main mission of parents is to connect, not connect in the quote-unquote physiological sense of the word, but to really make this child aware that God is everything. And not many parents do this around the world, so we're seeing more and more children being raised without the notion, like the awareness and the nourishment, the spiritual nourishment as well. How can you, I know we touched a little bit about it when talked about the youth at the beginning of our conversation, but as we're marching towards, the end of it, how can you tell us more elements and tools for parents who are listening to us, educators who would like to bring more of this loving certainty that we are created, sustained by God, and that God is there for us at all times? How can we bring this feeling of God closer to our children's hearts?
Well, just as our children look to us for guidance and protection, we can let them know that we look to God as the highest source for our own protection and for guidance. So they can see that we are their parents, but we also have a parent. And that parent is beyond sight, but not out of reach. And so in our regular conversations with them, we can let them know that that parent is accessible to them. That when we're not physically there or can't be there for them, that parent is always available. So we make it a part of our conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I think that children learn by example. So if we are reaching out that way, they will learn to do the same thing, rather than try to graft it on at a later date. It should be a part of our everyday communication with them. For even the simple thing as giving thanks for the food on the table or acknowledging. That's something my parents used to do in the house. They would always give God credit for this or God credit for that. I said in one of my books, I thought that I used to think that Jesus was a member of our family because he was talked about so much in the family, at the table and all like those things. But God in general was the topic. God help me, or with the help of God, I was able to do this or whatever. you have to, if God is real to you, you make him real to others. Or, you understand what I mean?
Yes, totally. It makes so much sense. And we have a listener, Mark Lewis, who is here with us, and he's just asking a question to you. He's asking, are moral values in societies what distance or approach us from or to God? I notice a breakdown on accepting religions as moral values degenerate in Western societies. I think probably he's marching towards Kitabu. It converges probably to what you're going to mention about your book, the new book. So would you like to address this question and connect to your information on your most recent book?
Okay, could you repeat the question? That was sort of...
Super, I will. He completed it now.
Okay.
Mark Lewis, thank you, Mark Lewis, for asking this question. He's at the chat room. He's asking, are moral values in societies what distance or approach us from or to God? I noticed a breakdown on accepting religions as moral values degenerate in Western societies, whereas in Eastern societies, devotion to religions increases exponentially to preserve cultural and, in some cases, millenary traditions.
Okay. All right. Yes, there's been a moral breakdown, and that does make a difference because when people no longer feel responsible for their actions, they don't feel they're responsible to anyone. So how are they going to feel responsible to someone they can't see or touch or have not been taught to believe is real? But in Eastern society, what we call religion is incorporated into your daily life. It's a part of your work. It's a part of your art. It's a part of your breathing itself. So it's no separation there. In fact, my new book is called Ki Asana Zen, Bridging the Gap Between East and West, in which I attempt to bring these things together, where some of the virtues of the East are brought into the West, in which we realize that we're not the same, but we can incorporate some of the same feelings, and that is we can worship through our activity. We can embrace God through our activity, through our music, which we do, through our various other arts, through our daily work, through our conversations with people, even through chance meetings. We can do that. Through the way we walk into a room. When you walk into a room, you are carrying some type of an aura. What is it? If it's one of peace, if it's one of love, if it's one of acceptance, the people around you are going to experience that. So in the East, when people bow or do gasho, they or yield and say, "I recognize the God in you." Those things make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have to do it the same way. Mm-hmm. But if we acknowledge that we are able to recognize that God that we are reaching for is also in that person who is down and out, or who may be a little amoral in front of us, but still that God is reaching for that same person, we may be the instrument through which that happens. That may be the way it happens. Like some people call me Roshi, but some people, when I go into a local restaurant, they say, "Hello, preacher man." That's the way they see it. Preacher man. But it allows me to address them on the higher things because that's the way they see me. That's what they relate to, and I can speak to them, or they'll come to me when they have a problem, and I can talk to them. How are you approaching people? How are they seeing you? You know, so yes, we do need to work on practicing, not just on our Sunday go to meeting days or in our day-to-day life. We need to practice those virtues that represent God or God represents, so that other people can actually feel them coming through us. You know.
Yes, yes. You know, just your explanation makes us feel at peace and serene and calm, and that's all we need nowadays to really cherish the connection we have with God. And as we are wrapping up our conversation now, we wouldn't like to, but it's just as time permits. We'd like to ask you, Kitabu, to kindly talk about your most recent book that shall be released soon, right? And then your final comment for the listener at Cardiac Radio, please.
Okay, well, my current book is actually already out. It's called Ki Asana Zen, and the subtitle is Bridging the Gap Between East and West. It was published by Rainbow Ridge Books.
Okay.
And available in your local bookstores, on Amazon.com, and wherever good books are sold. That's that. The thing I would like to leave people with is that there is nothing more important than our reconnection to the one who created us. And this is something that is bigger than who's going to win the Super Bowl or any of those things that occupy our mind day after day. That, to me, I was impressed with the fact that I existed at all. I could not get over the fact that anything existed. I said, how could it be that once there was nothing and then there's everything? How did that be? And that was my core. How can there be anyone that has no beginning and no end? And how can anything be? And that right there will tell me that I don't know anything. That it's all a mystery. And I appreciate the mystery without having to be able to solve the mystery.
That's humility, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's, humbleness, for sure. It feels good, Kitabu. I tell you this, more than anything else, your presence here at Cardiac Radio makes us feel God. It makes us feel good as well. So in the name of all the listeners who are with us and will be connecting later on demand, we would like to give you a hug of gratitude, thanking you.
Well, thank you
so much, and we hope to stay connected with you too. Thank you so much, Kitabu.
Thank you very much too, Dr. Anselani, and I embrace you back.
All right. Much love to you. Thank you. So, dear listener, what a joy, right? It is a joyful moment to know that God brings wise men and women around the world to guide us in His name, to facilitate our journey, because we grow together. And we need people who are more experienced than ourselves to lead us in this beautiful way. As Jesus Christ said, it's the way of good news. As the joyful Master, Jesus brings to us the good news of a life of love. We cannot fight against it. Love is our foundation, and so shall it be. So let us allow the flow of love to go through us. In a week from today, we are going to be here interviewing Dr. Annie Moreira, who is the medical chief of the expeditions in Africa. especially in Mozambique, Africa. It's about the program Fraternity Without Borders, which is actually a foundation created in Brazil, and they extend their arms, medical, food, education to more than 3,500 children and families in Mozambique, mostly orphans. Because as you know, HIV really takes many lives. Parents and children are left to themselves. But you can sponsor a child, and we know the people directly. This money doesn't go to people who are working in the foundation. Many of them, if not majority, are volunteers like Dr. Moreira. They go directly to their children. Go to the website fraternitywithoutborders.org. Next week, we'll be here talking to Dr. Moreira about it. For now, regarding the beautiful documentary which the Zen master Kitabu talked about and much more, he gave us much, much more than that, but it's the iGod documentary. Go to, please, igodthefilm.com and get to know about the production, the goals of this documentary, the creators, Neil Donald Walsh, and much more, and people who have been dedicating their lives to sharing the best of spirituality around the world. And we have Deepak Chopra, Marianne Williamson, Greg Braden, and the Zen master Kitabu, and many, many others talking about foundational questions in life, questions that you may have. And it leads us into this. For those who are spiritists and are listening to us, I can tell you that Kardec himself wrote a chapter, the universal, the spiritist principles are founded in universal ideas, and here they are. They don't belong to us alone. Truth is spread out all over the world, thank God, with different names. Nobody can claim they hold the sole truth. And why should we? We're not omnipotent. We don't need to make an effort to that regard. And as we felt in the last comment of Kitabu, there are things we don't understand yet, and that's okay. We don't have to solve those temporary mysteries, but just go with the flow, acknowledging the presence of the Creator in our lives. So, dear listeners, there's so much to share with you. Right now, we'd like to invite you to wrap up the program, as we usually do, with a heartfelt, very short but deeply heartfelt prayer. Let us dedicate this prayer today to those who are living in this world and have not yet found their conscious connection with God, because we're all connected anyhow, but we need to be aware to become better co-creators. So let us pray to them and ourselves so we keep on marching strongly together. How about that? Let us pray and feel it. Feeling is more important than even knowing. Dear Mother, Father God, what a joy. What a joy to know that you kindly brings to us presences like Zen Master Kitabu in our lives, sharing his experiences and journey. And the guidance of yours through him and many others. May we ask you at this moment that all of our brothers and sisters in humanity who are struggling to surrender to their connection with you, may they feel loving hands, a kind embrace of yours, calmness that it brings to us, the certainty. May they feel an invitation to the transformative power of your love, and thus lead a life in kindness and compassion. May we be better today than we were yesterday, in the continuous awakening of our souls towards you. And so be it. Dear listener, please receive our hug. And don't forget, Kardec Radio has programs on Sunday at 8 p.m., hosts from around the world bringing to you new segments about Spiritist awareness. On Monday, Kardec Radio for Kids, bringing another program for children. Mark Smith and Carol Correa leading another program for your children, Spirituality for Children. On Wednesday, we have Frank Kranz from Germany and Mac Mello from Massachusetts leading the reading of another chapter from the book The Messengers and a discussion on it. And on Thursday, Vanessa Shields from Seattle broadcasting to you another Spiritist talk from a speaker from around the world. Right now, we want to thank you, Mark Lewis, John DeRosa, and all the friends who are listening to us live and participating very actively, and especially to our dear friend. We already feel you so close to us, the Zen Master Kitabu, and his beautiful journey that inspires us so much. And to the producers and everyone who participated in the production of this beautiful documentary, iGod. We thank you very much. And what do we say at the very end of the program? Blessings? No, because we're always blessed by God. The matter here is feel the blessings of God, dear listener. Let us feel it and enjoy our lives.
Thank you for listening to Kardec Radio, broadcasting live every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Email us and share your comments at www.kardecradio.com. Until next time, we wish you many blessings.